I'm Moritz, and thank you, Annette, again for the nice introduction. I'm a researcher and robotic musician. And a lot of people ask me, hey, Moritz, like a robotic musician, what is that? What are you doing all the time? What are you doing in your day-to-day business? And so most of the time I'm thinking about music, of course, and then I'm also building stuff. I'm building small machines like these ones and big machines. I will talk about this a little bit. Then I'm also thinking about the future, of course, because robotics for me is a way to speculate about the future of music. And I also have a business side because I'm working as an artist and so I need money. And I'm somewhere in the middle, the gray area over there, that's me basically. When I was very young, my mother sent me these pictures, and I was raised in Germany in a small town named Göttingen. And eventually, I don't remember much of it, but I took apart a lot of the radios and TVs in our household. And I think it's because I wanted to know how these things work. And so I think this idea to get to know how things work, that's basically one of the driving factors of my work, I would say. My mother was also the one who convinced me to not pursue an art career in the beginning and also not pursue like this way of being a trained classical musician, because I had been playing clarinet and piano and such, but to become an engineer. And so I did this for some years, and I started my PhD in the semiconductor department of the Fraunhofer Institute. It's a research facility in Germany. And I don't know if you have an office job or not, but like sitting in front of a computer and like filling Excel tables, I didn't feel my purpose in there, sorry. So I basically skipped that. And I said, okay, I don't have anything to do with the art scene, but I'm gonna be an artist, whatever that means. And I quit my job, and that was kind of the one. It took me like a few years until I did this, but I eventually did it and quit this security of the Fraunhofer Institute. So then I basically started off with the installation I will talk about in a minute. And now I'm basically working in the arts field. I have we are doing a lot of installations for museum, like this exhibition, which is now in Singapore. It's a popcorn robot called. I can show you a video later on. And I'm doing concerts, and I have a Instagram channel, which is very much fun to do because I can do videos all day and post them online. That's very cool. So that's my life now. Basically, I'm running a studio in Dresden, in my hometown. I don't know if you've been there. It's a very calm city, and it's not so adventurous as Berlin, but like good for working. And I have a team of nice people. I should actually mention that as well. I'm not doing all this stuff alone. These are partly freelancers, partly people who work with me all the time. And I'm very grateful for these people as well, because they are doing also a lot of work. So I think like what I always wanted to do is basically find a way to make electronic music, but without electronic. And I started also to work with synthesizers, and I found FX Twin at some point, a very famous electronic artist. And I think I always wanted to have something in my hands rather than look at a computer and and just work with a computer and with something somebody else had invented. And so the big question of my in the beginning was, how do I actually produce electronic music but without electronics? And the most the answer for me was like, of course, with robots, because they can do all the work. And also I just had quit like a band project with humans, and that was super annoying. And to deal with like other human musicians all the time is kind of stressy for social interaction reasons. And so robots have different problems, but social problems are is not one of them. So yeah. So that's maybe like 15 years ago about, and the first thing I did, of course, is doing a lot of research. And so in this part of the talk, I'm not going to talk about my own project, but I'm going to show you just for 3 minutes some other projects of other people that do music robots. Because I didn't invent this whole thing, making music with robots. I didn't invent that. That's yeah, a big scene which is scattered all over the world. And so I think the first project which I stumbled upon, I mean, there's these piano players and this music automatational system and stuff from maybe like 100 years ago even, but that wasn't so interesting for me. I was more interested in the maybe last 30 years. And I think the first project I stumbled upon was from Lemur. It's the League of Urban Robots, something from the US. And they did a very interesting robotic system with strings. The quality is also from the 90s or from the 2000s, so the quality is not so good. Yeah, so basically what they did is they took a lot of strings from guitars, obviously, you could see it, and they attached a slider on it so that the string is tiled at various heights. And so it's like a guitar which is played. I mean, you saw it. And this was super interesting for me back then, but it's like already 20 years ago, so you might not find it too interesting. But the thing is that this kind of approach can be found in various other projects as well. And another project which uses the same idea is this one from university here in the US as well. So it's a super techy project. It's more of a show-off from the university to show the algorithms that drive all the linear actuators and stuff. It's not so much art-focused, but more kind of a tech show-off project from the university. But I found it very interesting to have like this variety of the same technique in a different field. Then you also have like crazy other robots which do things and are a little cute. It's an autonomous robot which basically finds objects and makes percussions with that. So it was also maybe like 12 years ago, an Arduino project, but I found it super cute. It's like the yellow drum robot called. So these were the first projects I just stumbled upon. There's like millions of them on YouTube. But then there's also like bigger ensembles of people making music with robots. And some are more in the art field and some are more political. And one of the projects that is kind of political is the one from Pedro Reis. It's called Disarm. It's a Mexican artist and he basically took armory from gang violence to create robots. So this is very interesting because it's only percussions, and that's kind of the easy way to do music robots. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. as well. And tonal robots, everything that makes tones is much more complicated to do. But Pedro Reis, as well as other artists, they basically got into this field of percussion robots, basically. And so this is one of them. And then there's this very big field of robotic bands, so full-blown bands that are making music not only as a single instrument, but as a whole group of musicians, like an orchestra. So I'm going to stop here for a second. This is a project called Z Machines from a Japanese company, and it was an advertisement company for Z. It's an energy drink we probably don't know. I didn't know it, for example. But they built like a drummer with like 8 arms and a guitarist with like 72 fingers, and it's very tech focused as well. And one of the compositions was from Square Pusher, artist very well known in the electronics field. But yeah, it's very crazy and a lot of things to see. Of course. And then, and this is the last video, there's one of my favorite bands, like robotic bands. It's from Berlin. And I don't know if you can guess the song, but I'm just going to play it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, who guessed the song? Does anybody know? Yeah, right. Ace of Spades from Motorhead, of course. And Frank Barnes and the Compressor Head band, they built this robotic setup of pneumatic robotic band members, and now they even have a singer, I think. So they are touring metal festivals and basically performing their rock pneumatic crazy compressor head band. But the thing is, there's a big variety of different people doing these kind of robotic music. There's artists integrating it into their live sets with other musicians. That's what I'm doing. And there's people who go more into this political field or using it as like a political art project. And there's also, of course, like these rock bands. There's, I think, like 4 of them on the world, like these big rock bands, these rock robot bands. Yeah, there's a big variety of them. Cool. Let me just quickly talk about my the first installation I built, because I started off with one of my installations and I didn't have any connection to the art world, and I thought, okay, I want to create a music robot which is playing drums, because that's kind of the easiest way to make a music robot. And the most easiest way, or like the most famous drum machine in the world, is the MR-808. So this is basically my first artwork which I did. It's called MR-808 Drum Robot. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody of you has ever heard about the 808, but it's a extremely influential drum machine, like a synthesizer, drum synthesizer. It was released in 1981 from a Japanese company called Roland. And this was meant to be the replacement for a human drummer. So they thought, okay, there's like an abundance of drummers and maybe we replace one of them more so that in a rehearsal setting, the other band members can basically play along with the drum machine. But the thing is, this was the first drum machine that was programmable. So before, drum machines had only like fixed rhythms like waltz or foxtrot. And this one was the first one which you can program. And so artists, they actually didn't use it for replacing drummers because also it didn't sound like a real drummer. It sounded, well, like a synthesizer. And they used it to create new genres of music. For example, hip-hop, electro, and techno were basically based on these kind of machines. And so my idea was, okay, so Roland used this machine to replace a human. So I'm now taking this machine and replacing it again with a robot. And so I tried to find a replacement for each of these very iconic sounds of the 808. So you have, I mean, you saw it in the video, you have like the bass drum, you have like the snare, you have various kinds of percussion elements. And I did a like 3-year venture into creating these, or recreating all these sounds. And I did this in the, well, in the basement of my student flat where I was living, to the dislike of my flatmates, actually, because it was very messy. But eventually I got there. And in the end, I had this wonderful machine. And I thought, okay, cool, now I built this machine, what I'm going to do with that? Because I didn't have any connections to the art world or the music world. But I reached out to some newsletter at news sites, and I also posted a video online. And by luck, it really got super viral, and I basically, yeah, it was very viral, and I could actually the first 2 years only play shows with this robot because it was, everybody wanted to see it. That was very cool. So I basically played around, all around the world with this machine. But on the other hand, it was kind of super heavy. It's like, I don't know, it's maybe like 300 kilos, which I don't know what that amounts to in pounds, but more or less, 600 pounds. Oh my God, that sounds even more cool. So it's a little bit hard to carry around, and it can be transported in a van. And I did this for like 2 years, but then I didn't feel like carrying so much anymore in my bag, also not. And so I didn't do that anymore. Yeah, that was very funny the first 2 or 3 years, but then I thought, okay, I need something smaller. I need something more transportable. And also, to be frank, I mean, the 808 is a reference to something that has been done before. It's a reference to the 808 from 1981, which is like something somebody invented, and it's kind of like a classical instrument. It's not like a violin classic, but like it's in the history of music instruments, the 808 is definitely a classic. And so I thought, okay, I want to do something which looks into the future and which nobody has done before, because with robots and with like all these small machines, you can do stuff that nobody had been thinking of before. And that's actually the moment when I created this Tripods One robot parts, and like parts of them are here. I mean, that was from 2017, so we rebuilt them one by one. But I'm going to show you the first video as well, how it looked. the video goes on a little bit more, and there's the party scene and stuff. So you have to go online and see it there to see what's happening after that. But the thing is, I wanted to create something which looks super futuristic and which looks nothing like a normal instrument actually. And so we decided to have these pyramids, these cut-out pyramids, which look a little bit aggressive. And we actually, that was the first time I started working with a designer, Sebastian Piazza, now a good friend of mine. And he basically, because I have more of a degree in like engineering and music, but he taught me about all these design processes. So for example, don't stick to the first idea you have, like do various models of what could be done. And for example, we didn't in the first run did these cutout pyramids. We did a few small scale models to just see how it looks in the stage context. Like could it be on these plates up there maybe, or should it be like these cutout pieces like here, or maybe like even the pyramids, which we eventually went for, these ones. And so for me, that was a big change in my artistic practice to realize that the first idea you have might not be the best one. And when you look back, you also want to make sure that you really tried everything to make it look and sound and smell, if you're like a artist who works with smells, good. And so I, at that point, started to incorporate these design processes in my artistic work. That's, for me, like an extremely crucial point still. Yeah, and with these design principles in mind, we basically created this installation and all the small robots, which I'm still taking on tour. I have a very emotional connection to most of them because they break all the time and they get lost and you have to care. I don't know if it's actually even easier than like the humans, but yeah, that's what I have now. So I answered for myself the question, can I make music, electronic music, without electronics? Yes, I can. I mean, I basically built big variety of other robots as well. I haven't been showing you, but we built these machines and a lot more. So at some point I thought, okay, now that I have a small system which I can take on tour and I don't have to carry with me like this big 808, can I maybe even play a concert without being on stage at all? Like I don't even have to go to the concert, okay? Can I be replaced by a robot or by an avatar? So that was basically my next question, and it's still a question for me. So that's what I want to talk about now a little bit. The question that is actually laying behind this is, can we transfer emotions from the stage to the audience when there is no human performer on the stage? So when I'm watching a performance, I'm very much focused on the human on stage. It's like in the core of my human being to value and to observe all the small details of the performer on stage. Like we are so focused on the gestures, the postures, like everything that a human on stage does. And this basically transfers the emotion to the audience when you're watching something like a theater play or a music piece. But the thing is, when I'm watching a performance, and I watched a few performances without humans on the stage, for example, there's like big robots, arms doing performances, can this actually at some point reach the degree of emotional transfer that is present when there's a human on stage and the audience is watching that? So on this quest, I asked myself a little bit sometime before COVID if I could create an entity which is in the center of the focus of a performance and which is not human, or which doesn't have a human by its side. And so we created a work called Don't Look at Me with the South Korean Art Fund 01, maybe 2 years ago. And I want to talk a little bit about this. It also has a little bit of technical background, but also some more philosophical ideas behind it. And so the main idea was to create an entity which reacts to human attention. So on this side, you see the algorithm. That's why I wrote algorithm on there, because it's an algorithm. And so it can create music. I will come to this in a second. And the entity, or the robot, if you want, gets more dissonant and more distracting when it gets more human attention. And it gets more harmonic and pleasing when there's less human attention around. So it's getting very calm and soft and very harmonic. And so we created a system, first of all, where we can tag human attention. Human attention is kind of hard to detect. We basically took the amount of people and how they look to the entity as a parameter pool. And first of all, we gave the entity eyes so that it can see humans and detect humans. You can see this on the right side here. That's basically the view of the entity, how it perceives the humans around it. And then we went on and we gave the entity something to communicate with. And that was first of all like a voice, or like a tone generation system. And I don't know how scientifically skilled you are, but there's something called a lambda half resonator in acoustical physics. And so it's basically a tube, okay? You also have this in a vibraphone. Most of you might know this classical jazz instrument. And it's basically a tube which is tuned to one tone, like a flute or like a organ pipe as well, somehow. And so we basically took this principle and we created a tone system which creates tones with these kind of pipes. I think there's sound as well. Yeah. Very distracting. Yeah, so it's somehow like a organ, but actually it's not an organ because it's a different physical principle. And that was actually a big research project, how to specifically tune these tubes. Although it looks kind of simple, it's then if you do it, it's kind of hard to do. And the next thing we wanted to do is give this this entity or this robot like a shape. So we did a lot of research and mood boards about what shape it should be. And I don't know if you're familiar with Buckminster Fuller and Kenneth Nelson. It's a very famous design team from the 1960s. And Buckminster Fuller and Kenneth Nelson basically invented a design principle called tensegrity. Tensegrity is a word consisting of the two words integrity and tension. And so this is a structure which consists of rods and strings, and it can be in various shapes, and it has a minimal stand on the ground. So we basically went for this shape to be like the shape of this entity. And we did some more sketches. I say we because I had a designer helping me and a technician. And in the end, we created this sketch of how it should look. So you basically have all the actors in here, like the ones that are creating the tones. Each of these small white elements is one tone creator, and then it's all connected with wires and is standing up. The installation itself is like maybe 3 meters high now, so it's pretty big. And the next thing after doing this wonderful drawing is like try to replicate this in real life. And that is sometimes a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, it worked. Another communication
part that we wanted to integrate is movement, and so we developed these linear actuators which can move the installation. So it's inflating and breathing. This is obviously like a prototype. And the thing is that we also made this work at some point. So in the middle, you can see the eyes of the installation. So what the installation actually sees, you can see how it spots the various humans walking around. On this side, there's my technical team making funny movements to distract the entity. And on this side, you can see like another picture where how the entity looks. We had lights installed in all of these elements so that each time when a tone was created, then also like a light reflex was created as well, so you can have this visual and sound moment together. Yeah, that was in South Korea, and it was actually, I also have a very emotional connection to this project because we had kind of a lot of technical challenges to overcome. But eventually we got it to work, and it's not on display right now, but it's still in my workshop and waiting for the next exhibition. I also started to use this as an actual instrument. This was in the US, in Austin actually, in March this year. We played in a church. And as you can hear, it's more of an ambient and very contemplative installation. And it also has dissonant moments, but like the whole vibe is more ambient like. So to come back to this question, is it possible to transfer emotions without non-human performers? I would say especially for this last project, I definitely built a very emotional connection to this entity because the process, it was only half a year, it was in South Korea, and it was very stressy. It was maybe the most stressy time in my life. And so I had a very emotional connection to this entity, but like that's not actually what the question was about, of course. I think an artistic output is much more than the performance on stage. So if you see like a robot or like an entity on stage which is performing all the actions that you would want from an audience perspective, that's not why you go to a concert. I would think, oh, that's actually not why I'm going to a concert. I'm going to a concert because I, for example, I'm interested in the whole oeuvre of this person or of the whatever social media material that they are creating. So like the specifics of the output, like the avatar, for example, this can be maybe transfer the emotional connection that you are looking for in a concert, but like this overall context of being an artist, for example, I think it's very hard to replicate this with a machine. But let's see how this changes in the next 20 years or 10 years maybe. Okay, so I will show you some more music robots which I brought here with you, for you. But before, I just want to show you, because it's super funny, another video which I did. And that is my popcorn robot machine. I published this during COVID when we couldn't actually play any concerts anymore, and nobody knew how COVID would turn out. So I thought, okay, I'm done with concerts. It's fine. I'm not going to be a musician, and so I'm going to be a Instagram influencer now. And we we did a lot of weird videos. And actually, I had the idea with my son, who was maybe 10 at that point, to build a popcorn-propelled small racing car. So the idea was to have a racing car which doesn't use electricity as a energy source, but like to use popcorn. So the popcorn would pop out to the back and like propel the car to the front. And actually we tried it and it didn't work. But I realized that popcorn as a medium is pretty strong, and like you can actually do a lot of different stuff with popcorn, and that's when we came to the idea of doing this. So yeah, it was just meant as a joke. Actually, we built it in like one day, I think, and then we did the video. But the video is a one shot, so it was also pretty simple, and some color grading. So how it works is you have like this pan of popcorn, and let me be assured, we did this 2 times, I think, but like afterwards, without a lid, like this whole thing is super messy, really, really quick, because like fat is all over. So we had to exchange the background, like think like 2 times, which is kind of complicated. So there's this pan with popcorn inside. And then there are small piezo microphones, which are contact microphones, like sensors. And they are triggered when each time like a popcorn is popping. And then there's like this robotic drum set in the back. And so actually is these very actuators that we used. It's a device that I developed. You can basically fix it to anywhere, and it moves and basically can trigger and hit on random objects like a table, but as well as like a drum set. And so this is connected, and when I uploaded it, I actually didn't expect it to have such an impact, but now it has like, I don't know, 25 million views or so, all combined through different channels. And I think what I underestimated was the amount of cultural reputation that popcorn has. It's like people go crazy over popcorn. I don't know why. Like I think it has a reference to American culture maybe, and also like it's a pretty random drum solo, you could say, and like the comments are always like, he's playing better than my drummer in my band, or it's pop music, obviously, and so like people went wild over this video for some reason. Also like this very slow movement, I think that also is very contemplative, and people just like keep watching it because you always want to know what's happening next. The video is just like going up. My videographer, he just did it without, I don't know, he just did it like this. And so it all came together. It was, yeah, it was, for me, it was really, really nice to see. I called it Jazz Popcorn Robot Composition for No Humans, because it doesn't have any humans involved during COVID, obviously. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to show you. But I also can show you, this is the end of the presentation. Thank you a lot for watching. And yeah, thank you. Ta-da! So what I wanted to show you more is, we got my extremely big Ableton set here. That's cool. So I just wanted to make a little bit more music for you, okay? And as Annette already said, I'm also playing a concert here on Wednesday at the Goethe Institute. You are welcome to come. It's free and it's very good because we are there. So when I open up, this is a MIDI editor, so you can control MIDI and synthesizers with that. And when I'm basically clicking on this small icon, let's see what happens then. Ah, wow. Okay, cool. It's already on. So with this robotic actuators, you can make music with everything. All right. So I, for example, took this table here, and I can see how the sound properties of this table are. They are not so good. Okay, a table is made for putting stuff on it. It's not made for making music. But I mean, still, it's like a thing. And these metal rods, they also don't have such good acoustic properties. But I mean, we attached it anyway. So let's see. I can also switch on the microphone here, and I already showed you the other instrument that I had. So first of all, we have like this small bass drum here. It's a vinyl player pickup. So I don't know who of you ever by accident dropped like a needle on a vinyl player. It makes like this really strong boom. And so I wanted to recreate this. The sound system here is not so good, but it's creates this bass sound out from this small needle here. Then obviously we have like these springs. These springs I found somewhere on the scrapyard, I guess. And there's various kinds of springs. Some are very good sounding and others are not good sounding. And like I collected these 4, and these are my favorite springs, okay? So my favorite metal springs. So I'm gonna show you how they sound. They are triggered with a small motor. If I basically, you cannot see it, I'm sorry, but like there's a small movement here. You can have a look if we are done. And then of course we have like the Konrad Zuse machine. This is super weird. Interesting. I don't know where this comes from. Ah, okay. So basically here we have a and then you can start to make like a small track. Thank you. Okay, I'm still here, so if you have any questions, you can also ask them right now.
Wait for the mic. Wait for the mic. Mark, we got no sound. One sec.
Hi. So I just want to say real quick, a friend of mine from North Carolina, Sable, who said you played, she manages there. She recommended you. So this is the first time I know about you. Super inspiring. Signed up for the workshop tomorrow. But I was curious about the MIDI. I understand it's coming from Ableton, but is there something in the middle to your robots? Like, what would that be that's in the middle?
You mean like black German magic? No, there's no magic involved. So the question is like how the process of like this controlling is taking place. So you have Ableton. Okay, so raise your hand if you know Ableton. Oh, that's quite a few people. Okay, I'd say like quarter maybe. And so Ableton is a program for making music. It's like the most famous program for creating music. And so they are sending out MIDI notes, which is like a data format. And it's going through my mixer output. And then it's going to the small box here, which is converting the MIDI data into the electric impulses for like the robots. But you are at the workshop tomorrow, so can explain it to you in more detail tomorrow because it's a little bit technical, but not too much in the middle.
Yeah, so what's your advice for people who want to try to do this?
Yes, good question. So working with robotics and working with all these small machines is very good because you can actually touch something. It's not like working with a screen or working with a computer, which you are doing anyway all the time. There's a bunch of starter kits. So there's, for example, Arduino extensions. Arduino is a electronic learning educational kit, which is like pretty easy to learn, and there's a bunch of resources online. So for Arduino, there exists a few of these extensions for creating robotic sounds. And I think the most famous like music robot kit which you can actually buy is called Dada Machines. It's a company from Germany, and they basically Dada Machines. Yeah, and Dada Machines is a kit where all the stuff that I'm building on my own is already pre-built. So you have like the small box, you can plug it into your computer. You have all the small electromagnets for letting something beat, like a little bit like this one, but as a product. And they are sold for maybe like 600 euros, like the whole kit. So it's not like super expensive. It's not like super cheap, but like if you want to get into music robots, then I think it's worth it. And it's like bulletproof. It's working right out of the box. Data Machines, good product. I'm not affiliated with them, just a good product.
So all these sort of wonderful little mechanical objects that you have seem really fiddly. And how do you think about preserving this work?
Wow, okay, that's a good question. And when I build other music systems, and normally they tend to break at some point. And I mean, I don't have an archive, I don't have a museum. I mean, you have a museum here, but I don't. And so basically, when they are old, I discard them. I just like throw them away, or I build a new one because I'm running out of storage space. I mean, I store some of the things, but like basically these are constantly maintained and rebuilt, and they are a little bit fragile. But we use 3D printing a lot, and so you can reprint all the objects that break. And I have about 800 of these relays still at home. So if you want to get into that, you can reach out. I can send you some. And so I can also rebuild them. But they are super robust. They never break. But if they would break, these I could replace them with like 797 others. And apart from that, yeah, I'm just like constantly maintaining them in our workshop.
Thank you so much for everything. What is next? What are you cooking? What's on your mind for the next project?
So the thing is, yeah, like all this technical stuff, all this media, all this form is like super nice. But on the other hand, I'm an artist and I want to create good music in the end. I'm a musician. And so next on my mind is definitely my next album, because you can do all these technical things, but it shouldn't be like just a technical show-off. For me, it's very important. A lot of media artists focus on the media, but I'm also focusing on the art and on the music, because that's actually in the end the biggest enabler for transferring emotion. Like music for me is extremely important, it has been all my life. So the next thing I'm doing is finishing the album, which I started to produce with the Don't Look at Me installation, which I talked about. And it's gonna be an ambient album, and it's gonna be experimental and very soothing. And I hope to finish it by the end of the year.
You obviously have a very unique way of producing music and generating music. Do you have any traditional DJs or musical artists who you take inspiration from for your actual production and type of sound?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in the maybe like last 10 or 15 years, there was a shift in electronic music to incorporate more organic sounds. So there's artists like Bonobo or Caribou or others, which are not only creating music with their synthesizers and their synthesized sounds, but incorporating these organic artifacts into their music. And this is also for me very important. So I'm listening very closely to what's going on. But I think like personally, Mouse on Mars is like my biggest influence, because I've been working so close together with them for like 12 years, and they are very good friends of mine, and they are in this business for 30 years, I think. So they've seen everything, and they also did a lot of productions, and Andy is a very good producer, and I owe him extremely much, because he's just taught me how to be a decent human being and also like a good producer, I think. That's cool.
So I kind of see like the scientist you, in that it seems like a lot of your work is based around a question or something you're trying to figure out. I know you got asked kind of about what is next for you, but I was wondering if there's a question or thing that you feel like, hey, I really want to know this. This is what the idea I'm experimenting with.
Yeah, I mean, not in terms of project, but in terms of ideas. I think AI is all over, right? And so if robots are the body of music, then AI is the brain of music. And so to merge these two things together and create an entity which can react in the physical world as well as compose on a meta level, that is basically something which has to be done, and which I think is very important. And to get into AI composition specifically is something I've been investigating for the last 2 years maybe, and there's very many interesting projects. Still, I think we still haven't reached you know Zuno? Any of you, Zuno, like the platform? Yeah, you do. so Zuno, if you go to Zuno and you are creating a track, it's crazy good. I mean, like the AI compositions of Zuno my son is making tracks with Zuno, because like it's so simple. It's prompt-based audio generation. And Zuno is good, but it's very much focused on pop music. And so to get AI compositioning tools to create more something that hasn't been done before, I think this is really interesting. I don't fear AI so much personally. I think it's a tool, and like the human will always find a place there. So to work with AI compositioning tools, I think it's for me the most important thing, because it could be the brain for the robots, and then we have like this big human robotic player on the stage. I don't know. Could be funny. Could be really frightening as well.
I noticed that the popcorn piece had the element of chance, which didn't seem to be present in the other works. Is it something you think about, or is it present in a way?
So yeah, that's absolutely true. Like the other works are more conventional in this way because I'm using them as more of a sound generation tool and not so much as a compositioning tool. And the popcorn piece is absolutely random. I mean, like there were like free jazz saxophone players playing above it, and it's total random because the pops of the popcorn obviously are not calculated in any way. And so I'm thinking about this also a lot, but it also boils down to this dichotomy of having a body and a brain. And so this randomness here mostly happens in the small sound pieces that come out of the robot. So if you would synthesize these sounds with a computer, it's very different to what's happening inside here. Like the robots actually make up a sound world which is somewhere in between a human playing and like a machine playing, like a computer playing, because the computer is very predictable in its sound generation. Like every sound is like each other, and a human obviously is very unpredictable. And in many ways. And so these robots, they are somewhere in between because no sound of these small actuators is like the other one. But I mean, of course, like when I play them, they are not so random. It's just more that the sound in general is very organic. But this random factor, I would say, it's mostly when you have a compositioning algorithm which puts into the randomness factor, like the popcorn, for example.
So when you create these compositions, do you have some compositional process, or do you try to just experiment with the different types?
Yeah, when I started making music with robots, I realized that it's really hard to basically have an idea in mind and say, okay, I want to have like this track, and it should be basically have like this emotion or like this effect, and you want to replicate it with a machine, which, I mean, to be frank, the sound capabilities of these robots are extremely limited. They have like only this one sound. You cannot tune anything. I mean, you can like fiddle a little bit with the acoustical principle, but like in Ableton Live, you can take any sound and make any other sound out of it. Basically, you can take a sample and make a bass drum or harmony out of this. This is not happening for like these machines. And when I started, I was trying to make tracks with these robots which were comparing to like other electronic artists, and that actually didn't work. So it took me actually, Andy, my producer and friend from Mouse on Mars, to realize that in terms of making good compositions with these robots, you have to, I mean, like really deeply listen to what the instrument is telling you. It sounds a little bit philosophical maybe, but I mean, if you have a violin, you cannot play drums with the violin, okay? And if I have a robot system, I can basically only use the sounds that are in here, and you really have to listen to what the instrument is telling you in order to make good music with that. And this basically took a while, actually, some years until I realized, because before I was just trying to make music with that actually didn't work on it. I don't know if this answered your question, but like for me, it was a big challenge to realize.
Thank you, Moritz, for being here tonight. Thank you to everyone in the audience for being here as well. We hope we'll see many of you on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock at the Goethe Institute for a free concert. Now, please join me in giving Moritz a round of applause.
I also have free stickers here, if you want. I can play the easy jazz from the beginning. what? Has what? Yeah.